We're back. Welcome one and all to the show. Wired up, fired up, and I am absolutely ready to go. Episode 43 of BlueTruth, New York Rangers Talk with Brian Attard, powered by the Sportsbox Network. Like and follow on Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever it is these days, Instagram. Thank you to those who have joined the live stream for watching tonight's live stream. If you're watching the replay on YouTube or on Facebook or whatever, thank you for that as well. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button. Maybe you'll hit the live stream on one of these episodes. Today is Wednesday, September the 18th, and the air is starting to get just a little bit crisper in the morning. And you know what that means. Hockey season is right around the corner. So close, in fact, that we are just a few days away from the start of Rangers preseason. Sunday night, there will be a televised Rangers game as the Rangers start preseason off in Boston. Training camp is underway. The Rangers split the rookie series with the Flyers, and each way you look at it, the world is ready to begin again. 3 weeks from today, the Rangers open regular season in Pittsburgh. It is coming, and it is coming quickly. Tonight is our first BlueTruth episode since we put the tombstone up in the eulogy on the 2023-24 season. That wasn't necessarily my intention. I did want to get a show or two going during the summer when the Rangers did something of note, but, well, they didn't. Not anything overly positive anyway. I said this after the loss to Tampa in 2022, and I still believe it to be true. The shortest off seasons are the longest off seasons. When you have less time to dwell on what went wrong, invariably, you spend more time dwelling on what went wrong. So we'll do a bit of that tonight, but the road now is forward. That's the direction that we have to look. We'll recap what happened in the offseason and what didn't happen in the offseason and why things did and didn't happen. It's been a little while since we discussed the elephant in the room, and that is the upcoming contract extension for Igor Shesterkin. We will go over some of those numbers again because I think this fan base sometimes doesn't really grasp math, and that's okay. I mean, it's not okay, but it's okay. And we'll take a look at what rookies might be the next one or two to break into the NHL with the Rangers, if any. So let's get going and start with the offseason in review. Last episode that we did, the loss was very fresh. It was essentially a eulogy. It was a therapy session. It was an outlet for all the emotions that we all were going through. And we said at the time, and we expected an active offseason. Well, we didn't get one. So let's look back at what frankly was a pretty underwhelming offseason for the Rangers, especially given, what's likely at stake this offseason. PJ, you're catching me in between Disney trips. I'm going back in November. Shh, my son doesn't know that. The way this team is built, the structure of the roster, the age of the top end forwards, I really felt this upcoming season had to be the all-in year. They needed to be aggressive. My list of things to do for the offseason for Chris Drury was, in no order, get out from under Barclay Goodrow's contract, not give Ryan Lindgren anything long-term, 2 years max, get a right wing to play with Mika Zibanejad, or the third line if you're going to put Kakko on that line, and to get rid of Jacob Trouba for reasons that if you follow BlueTruth at all, you know pretty clearly how I feel about Jacob Trouba's game and his contract. And, we'll try not to spend an hour on that topic tonight because I can, but I won't. Maybe. Anyway, those were my table setter moves that would allow certain parts of the roster to be upgraded. Dimitri, Gracie livestream again. These are great. P.S. Igor's upcoming contract makes me worry. There's always reason to worry, Dimitri. That's why we're Rangers fans, but obviously good to see you as well. It's around the corner, buddy. We're close. So the Rangers were hugely successful in removing Barclay Goodrow from this roster at absolutely no cost at all. Not even $1 against the salary cap. And that, my friends, is quite a miracle in my book. I thought they'd have to buy him out, personally, to get out from under that contract for free. Top move of the offseason in my book. The fan reaction to what went down with Goodrow was so comical on just so many levels. It's just wild. I saw people talk about how they screwed him over and this and that. And I look at that stuff and I just laugh. This is a business. The Rangers did nothing wrong at all. Barclay Goodrow had a partial no trade clause. That clause provided protection against him being traded to half the league. It did not provide him protection from being waived. Had he negotiated a no movement clause, then the Rangers did not have this option. In a league where salary cap space is basically oxygen, Chris Drury opened up the full $3.6 million scot-free. Great work. This idea that, oh, well, now the Rangers did this to Goodrow. They're going to have trouble signing future free agents. They're going to see what happened. They're not going to want to sign here. Okay. That's comical too. The Rangers, you'll remember, sent Wade Redden to the minor league 4 years. And we all know that the Rangers did not have much trouble attracting free agents after that. If sending a guy to the minors for multiple seasons doesn't cause an issue signing other free agents, I really don't think this will either. We'll let it play out. The idea that the players are unhappy about it, comical. This is professional sports. This is a job. If there are players who are upset by another player being waived after not living up to the contract, then they can also follow him out the door. And don't misconstrue this. I'm not blaming Barclay Goodrow for not living up to his contract. He was never going to be able to. You cannot pay fourth-line players that kind of money in a hard cap league. You can't. What happened was really set in motion the day pen hit paper. He was never going to finish that contract here. And guess what? He's getting his money. It's being paid for by somebody else. What is probably the most comical of all of this is the people who will point to Barclay Goodrow's playoff goal scoring last season as a reason to keep him around. They talk about, oh, he produced and this other guy didn't produce who makes so much more money. It's ridiculous. That was a moment in time that is never going to happen again. Ever. It's just not. It defies all sense of rationality. Barclay Goodrow is not a goal scorer. That's not even what you pay him to be. You pay him to be a mucker and a grinder and a leader, and that's wonderful. But $3.6 million in a cap league when you're this tight was never going to stay. So long to Barclay Goodrow. Farewell. Enjoy not making the playoffs in San Jose. No cap hit to the Rangers. All good. A+. The good news is the next year, the draft is in Vegas, so the first round pick isn't played at the deadline. I don't really know that. Man, I know that came up. I'm just going to go ahead and not believe that because I can't wrap. Is it possible? Yes. Is it likely? No. I think that's urban legend. Velasco, he will single-handedly be responsible for a 10-point regression. He played a much bigger role than he got credit for. So you think that Barclay Goodrow is going to be responsible for them winning 5 less games this year? Okay. I will take the under on that. They may win 5 less games. He's not going to be the reason why. Business move. Hate to lose the player, but so be it. I didn't hate to lose the player. I never wanted the player. When the player signed here, that was a disaster contract, that this was going always to be this way. Needed to shed cap somehow. Yes, they did. Good luck replacing what he did. No one else on the team is willing to do and has always been missing on this team. Well, what he does can be replaced at a lower dollar amount. That's what you pay third and fourth line players to do, specifically fourth line players, which is really what Barclay Goodrow is. You can't pay them to do those things. Numbers are numbers. The Rangers were moderately successful in not committing a long-term deal to Ryan Lindgren. I said this at the end of last year, and I've seen people share a similar view that there are some distinct similarities between the career trajectory of Ryan Lindgren and that of Dan Girardi. Lindgren is a smaller player, surely plays bigger than his frame, doesn't really play a style of hockey that's conducive to a long career. So BlueTruth had advocated for the Rangers to take Lindgren to arbitration, end up on a short-term deal. Now, essentially they did that. It didn't actually get to arbitration. They settled on a one-year deal worth $4.5 million. That's best case scenario. The success in that lies in that they are not committed to Ryan Lindgren past this season. For me, it does feel like it'll be his last year with the Rangers, given the cap situation for next year, the money that they're going to need to pay Shesterkin, Lafreniere, K'Andre Miller. He's really not a top pairing defenseman. You know, if we're honest with ourselves and we see him for what he is a warrior. No question about that. But he's not a top pair defenseman. I expect the Rangers to be in the market for a defensive upgrade in the top four on the left side after this year, whether that is a Ryan Lindgren replacement on the first pair or a K'Andre Miller replacement on the second pair if Miller moves up. So those two things were on my list of things to do, and they were great. Goodrow's gone. Lindgren's back for just 1 year. Great. Comments. We suck, sign Clutterbuck. He's going to put a lot of pucks in the net, Dave. You know that. He's going to score a lot of goals. Adam Edstrom deserves a chance to replace Goodrow, giving more than Carrick a chance, to be fair to Edstrom. No one knows where we're going with this because we had a conversation about it. What's up, Joe? How are you, buddy? No, PJ. It's not that. No. Miller's not moving. It's Miller might go up to the first pair. So either you're replacing Lindgren because he's gone, or you're replacing Miller because Miller went up, and now you have a second pair defenseman to replace. I'm not advocating K'Andre Miller to go anywhere. I'm advocating him to either stay where he is or get promoted, not to be moved. The Rangers acquired Riley Smith from the Pittsburgh Penguins in exchange for a 2025 fifth-round pick and a 2027 second-round pick. There was some salary retention in the deal from Pittsburgh's side. Presumably, he'll get the first crack at Mika's right side, whether you think that's line 1 or line 2. Semantics, as far as I'm concerned. Smith has been a decent point producer. 13-year veteran, 33 years old. Seems to fit the rest of the top 6 age-wise. Scored 26 goals, 30 assists his last year in Vegas. I still think he was a great fit in Pittsburgh. And as Noah Deiler will tell you, one of our resident Pittsburgh fan friends that keep up with the show, Pittsburgh's got a world of hurt going on. They don't know what they're doing, whether they're rebuilding, they're not rebuilding, they're trying to win, they can't win. Just a lot going on there. I just think Riley Smith didn't work in Pittsburgh. Sometimes that happens, right? Sometimes players go places that it's just not a good fit. They go somewhere else and they're fine. Kevin Shattenkirk. They clearly did not want to commit any term on any of these deals, given the cap crunch next summer. So being that Riley Smith has only 1 year left on the deal, it works from that end too. Is it a sexy move? No. I think that there probably wasn't ever a sexy move in the cards. For the people that think the offseason was underwhelming, and I'm in that camp, this is the move that you'll point to and say, well, meh, who cares? And I get that. Like, I get that entirely. You're not wrong at all to think that. I'm essentially with you on that. People expected there to be this big splash at this specific spot in the roster because this was the spot that they've been putting Band-Aids on a gunshot wound since they traded away Pavel Buchnevich. Riley Smith is nothing more than the next Band-Aid in the line of Band-Aids. It's not healing. It's just stopping the bleeding. Somewhat. Their hands were somewhat tied, though, because they probably thought that they were going to clear out some cap space on defense. And then they didn't. We didn't get bigger or tougher in any way, did we? No. What's the deal with Capo Caco? He is on the team. He is signed for 1 year. We'll see if he starts the year on the roster. Decent player, nothing special. I would agree in reference to Riley Smith. Kuzmenko at the deadline is what this team is going to need. Well, we're a long way to get to the deadline, but it's going to come up tonight, obviously. So, as I said, they probably thought they were going to, open up some cap space. That didn't happen, which brings us to Jacob Trouba. Jacob Trouba, for a variety of reasons that I am not going to re-legislate tonight, is still a New York Ranger. For my own sanity, we'll leave it as it is. Trouba is back, and we'll talk about it from that angle. Am I happy about this? No. Absolutely not. Anyone who has followed BlueTruth at any point this summer knows that very well. This is not going to be an hour-long bash session of Jacob Trouba. But I do have some thoughts that I need to get off my chest, and has nothing to do with the circumstances around why he's still here, and more to do with the combination of the player's contract with the player's skill set, or lack thereof. Truth be told, I think Chris Drury screwed this up. Larry Brooks leaked that the Rangers were talking to Detroit prior to July 1st when Trouba had to submit his 15-team no trade. Trouba didn't want to leave. He had the clause, so he made sure Detroit was on one of those 15 teams that were named. Frankly, I think if that doesn't leak, Trouba probably doesn't have Detroit on the list. And he would have been traded to Detroit. It is what it is now. The part that's going to really upset me, and really should upset you, is that the Rangers are going to have Jacob Trouba, who makes $8 million a season, on the right side of their bottom pair. You do not need to have an intimate understanding of the salary cap to know that it doesn't really make a lot of sense for any team, but especially one that fancies itself as a contender to win the Stanley Cup, to have a player, any player, making $8 million to play on the third pair defense. That is 9% of the salary cap, approximately. Touch over that, actually. Trouba was signed as a 25-year-old, coming off of a 50-point season when he was traded here. Then, cap went flat. The cap doesn't go flat, and it's up another 20-25% right now, because it just continues to go up. It's less of an issue. It's still an issue, but it's less of an issue. Players sign for a percentage of cap when the deal is signed, and then the cap goes up and their salary doesn't. More on that in a bit, because this is a concept I think people don't really grasp and wrap their heads around. Trouba was signed because the prevailing thought at the time was, at that age, with that production, he would develop into a legitimate star defenseman. He was a high draft pick for Winnipeg. But it didn't happen. Jacob Trouba never materialized into the player people thought he could be when they got him and they signed him. Call it failure to launch, if you will, whatever. It just didn't happen. So, As his offensive game fell off, he had to do something to remain relevant, effective, whatever. So he transitioned his game to be more of a physical force. And he would often go for that kill shot hit in the mold of Scott Stevens and what he did in his heyday. You always remember the hit on Paul Correa in the playoffs. But that's what Trouba, he gained this reputation for being a feared hitter. This is all well and good, but it's not worth $8 million. It's not even close to be worth $8 million. His offensive game has decreased, but now his defensive game has gotten worse and worse. The play in Game 6 against Florida, and before I say another word, you know exactly which play I'm referring to without any further description, is unforgivable. And to me, that's the lasting image of that series. He decides to go for a kill shot hit to a player who does not have the puck. And then the player who does have the puck has a clear highway to the net and a goal. Rangers never recovered. By the way, just for fun, that kill shot hit didn't even land it. The guy that had the puck, if he did, it would be an interference call. Just all around disaster. Is Jacob Trouba a leader? Sure. From the outside looking in, it seems like he's well liked. He's well respected by his teammates. Great. Is Jacob Trouba a feared physical player and hitter? Sure. Listen, when other fan bases say you're a dirty player, the reality is you're probably doing something right. That's why they say that. We can all say how much we hate Tom Wilson. You would love Tom Wilson on this team. Is Jacob Trouba good defensively? No, not particularly. Do you think he's good defensively? I don't think he's good defensively. We can disagree or agree on that. Is Jacob Trouba a point producer? No, not really. When you look at the players in the league, defensemen who are making $8 million or more, and there are 20 such defensemen in the league that make $28 million or more this upcoming season. These are mostly cornerstone defensemen who put up points. Charlie McAvoy, Roman Josi, Miro Heiskanen, Cale Makar, Adam Fox. Generally speaking, the defensive defensemen don't make big money. It's the guys who put up points. That is the modern NHL. I hear a lot about, Norris Trophy, that guy can't play defense. Okay. Argue with a wall. That's what the Norris Trophy is given for. It's a killer because he's also not that good defensively. Not a lot of redeeming qualities here on the ice. People will point to the ankle injury. His ankle was fine. Molly Walker said that. Larry Brooks said that. The quote that everybody wants to misquote was taken so out of context. There was a thing taken out of it. He was fine by the time he had to play. Found out that he could play on it if anything else. He didn't have an ankle problem. He had a brain problem. A horrible lapse in decision-making. It was abysmal. And it wasn't just once or twice. I'm just pointing to the one that we remember. So, I argue with a lot of people over the summertime about me attacking Trouba. There's a couple people specifically who they don't know if they follow the page or not anymore. I really don't care. If you're going to just make dumb comments, then don't. I mean, if you don't want to, whatever. The point is that if you are a kind of person that wants to defend Jacob Trouba, just realize you're not doing a very good job of it, but you're doing a better job defending him than he defends. He's just not a good player. And this is not a new development. He has not been a good player for a few years now. The things you remember about him is the helmet toss. Great. Awesome. It helped. That's not a hockey play. If I ask you to think in your mind, can you remember like a really good defensive play Jacob Trouba made? And you won't be able to. And I said this on the show, the eulogy. My dad, who makes the occasional really insightful comment when we're watching hockey, says every time I look around, Trouba's on the ice for a goal. And he was on the ice for about half of them, by the way. But yeah, like what's your redeeming quality in hockey? not how nice you are, how much people like you. I'm talking about. Jacob Trouba is like a bad timeshare that you get caught up in. Early on, you sign this contract because you convince yourself that it's some sort of investment and you really like it. And then over time, the allure wears off, not really using it as much as you used to. And you get to the point where it's just this really expensive thing and you just want to find your way out of this contract, but you signed a contract. So you're stuck paying this money for this glorified hotel room that you don't even want anymore. That's Jacob Trouba. But let me be really, really clear. No, I don't blame Jacob Trouba for signing a contract the Rangers presented to him. I don't blame Jacob Trouba for using a no-trade clause that he negotiated into his contract to protect his interests. Whatever reason he had, the reason doesn't really matter. He had the clause. He didn't want to wear a red jersey. He didn't want to go to Detroit. Whatever. It doesn't matter what his reason is. He has the clause. He is free to use it. That's negotiated. More power to him. I'm not blaming him for the business end of it. That's on the Rangers. But I can't imagine a scenario where 12 months from now, we're talking about Jacob Trouba as a New York Ranger. He's done after this season. He may even be traded at the deadline. I don't know. Remember, Ryan Callahan was traded. Those Rangers went to the finals. So it is what it is. It's not changing for at least right now. What we know is that Jacob Trouba will be the anchor of the defense. And you can read into that comment any which way you like. Comments coming in. Let me see if I can. I know that I went off on a bit of a tangent there, but that happens. I talk a lot. Al, you said it right there. Pavel Buchnevich. They would have signed him, probably win a cup. $8 million for a third line defense. People couldn't stop jizzing when the Rangers traded for no, but Gunnar, you're right. Because of what he was going, what we thought he was supposed to become. It just never happened. People were happy about drafting Capo Caco too, because of what he could become. It just didn't happen. So I don't fault the Rangers for the trade or the contract at the time. You make those decisions at the time by the information you have in front of you. 25-year-old 50-point defenseman? Hell yeah, sign me up. That's you follow that line through, like that's a guy you want, and he wanted to be here. So there are some benefits to being in New York. If Smith does not fit into the Kreider-Meek line, it's time to get rid of them both. Sav, how are you, buddy? Percent of cap. PJ, that conversation's coming up very soon. Crosby signs for 8.7. Yeah, but Rich, Crosby's number is 87. He's made a lot of money. That's just him taking it, right? It's fine. That Drew play was absolutely insane. Mm-hmm. Brian Gazzara, your Flyers tie looked great at the wedding last weekend. Well, that would be great because I didn't wear a Flyers tie. I would never wear a Flyers tie. But good seeing you. Congrats to your brother. It was a very, very nice event. I had a very good time. I know how to push your buttons. You do. I don't know. That's, again, it's all speculation. It's all, we don't know. We don't know what was agreed to. We don't know if there was this handshake deal where Drury says, all right, you have to, we're not going to move you now if you just waive your clause period at the end of the season. Like, you don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but it is what it is. Yeah, Tom. You like that, right? So it is what it is. And really, the part that drives me nuts about all of this is that with this whole Trouba thing, this is the year that they needed to be all in. And there are a lot of reasons why that's the case. I have sat here on this show the past 3 years, and I have told you that the window for this group is not that long. And I've said that as often as I've said it, because again, the top end offensive talent on this team is getting older and older and older. Today, Mika Zibanejad is 31 years old. Today, Returning Panarin is 32 years old. Today, Chris Kreider is 33 years old. And I've been telling you their ages since Kreider was 30. Time catches up. Having said that, Chris Kreider's had 2 career years, last 2 years. Panarin had a career year last year. Zibby fell off from what we expect from him. It's a very productive year the year before. But can we realistically expect age not to catch up with them? You know how the odds of that are? Like, I find it very difficult to believe that there's another level that Panarin can get to at 32. Another level that Kreider can get to at 33. I think if we're being real, which that's what we do here, we have seen the best they can be. It's asking a lot, in my opinion, to just maintain and replicate that, let alone improve on it. On top of that, this is the last year of Laffy's $2.3 million deal. Last year of Keandre's $3.8 million deal, 3.9 if you want to round. Most importantly, we'll get to this. This is the last year of Igor's 5.6. All three are going to get raises after the year. So you combine, look at the whole recipe here. You combine the top end's age and the expiring value contracts and the raises they're going to need. And if it just doesn't make you visibly angry that the Rangers are going to pay a third pair defenseman $8 million of an $88 million cap, as opposed to using that money to fill some other sizable holes on the roster, like the one on Mika's side, for example, I just don't get it. I don't. And I've argued with people all summer long. All summer long. They're like, oh, you just hate Jacob Trouba. I hate paying a third pair defenseman $8 million. I don't care if it's Bobby Orr. You can't pay a third pair defenseman $8 million when the cap is $88 million. If the cap's $200 million, okay, I don't care at that point, but it's not. There is no way you can rationalize a third pair defenseman making that much money. As simply and directly as I can put it, I think you're insane. If you're anything less than angry that Trouba is still here. I am not asking you to be angry for the why behind it, because that's what everybody takes. Oh, you don't like it? No. It is, again, I don't care why he used his clause. He has the clause to use it. Business. The Rangers should have found a way around that. They did for Barclay Goodrow. They are lighting 9% of their cap on fire. In the all-in year, they are lighting 9% of their cap on fire. I don't. What more do you need for me to? How else can I get this through your heads? This is a disaster waiting to happen, and I think we all feel it. Like, I think BlueTruth as an entity. I focus a lot on fan mentality, fans' emotional intelligence, the ability to separate sometimes fandom from the reality and keeping it real. I like to think, and I don't cheerlead this team. I love this team. I would commit atrocities in the name of this team, but I don't cheerlead them when something's not right. The vibes right now to me of the fan base and just interacting with people, they're interesting because they are starkly different to me than the past few years. Coming out of 2022, it was optimism. Even though they lost to Tampa, it was optimism. You saw everything turning. Coming out of 23, that pure, unadulterated vitriol and anger. Rightfully so. Coming out of 24, right now, I think it's apprehension, if I'm being honest. I think everyone is a little bit nervous that last year was their best shot, and they blew it. I think the storylines around the team, the 30-year anniversary of 94, the way they played in the regular season, all of those weird coincidences about that run and everything going back to 94, like, I think in a way, and I'm guilty of this, we allowed ourselves maybe to believe more in it than we normally would have. And I sat here after Carolina telling you should. So blame me, whatever. I'll own that. But what if last year was their best shot? Everyone's older now, which in the case of a guy like Lafreniere is a good thing. In a case like Panarin, it's not. Panarin's got 2 years left on his deal. He's 32. What do you do there? Do you have a replacement longer term? I don't think they do. Kreider? How many more years? How many? We've been talking about this log jam on left wing that caused Laffy to go to the right. Like, how many more years do we have of that? We could be looking for two new left wings relatively soon here. Talking numbers, let me look. Lafreniere is going to absolutely cash in on a new deal. Long-term deal, too. And if you don't believe me, I want you to go look at what some of these comparables that are going on around the league. Lucas Raymond in Detroit just signed 8x8. He's 22. He's younger than Lafreniere. A little better numbers right now on a worse team, but again, he had top 6 minutes from the jump. So, the comparable is there. Lafreniere is going to get paid. So will somebody else. And we'll get to that. Love all the comments coming in. Let's see. Yeah, Dimitri. So that's, we reported that. We knew it. We knew it within 45 minutes when it happened. It happened half hour from here. So, we knew. We reported it. People got mad. So, well, sorry. That's, I don't lie to you people. I left it as unconfirmed because it wasn't confirmed, but it was confirmed. Really sad, real tragic. I hope that guy never sees the outside of a jail so the rest of his life. There's a reason for things like the death penalty. I hope he gets it. Very, very sad. Anthony, 2022 should have been the year they won the cup, but they fumbled. Well, 2022, Anthony, they did come out of nowhere to be good that year. So it's unfortunate because they were up 2-0 in that series against Tampa. Like they could have and they were up in game 3. They could have put the knife to their throat, but they didn't. They could have gone that year. I'll take subpar teams with different. Yes. Well, but did they collapse in the play? Like, that's the thing. Like, we could talk this through. I don't know if they collapsed in the playoffs. They got beat by a better team. Like the Devils series, they collapsed 100%. Had no business losing that series. Florida won the whole thing. Like, Florida was very good that year, right? Was there a gap between us and Florida? Yeah, there was. Could they have won anyway? Yeah, they could have. Like these were 1-goal games, right? Which makes it tougher that the offseason, that the deadline last year wasn't what it was. Rich, we can't win with this team. They made it as far as they can. They have to do something this year. Well, no, they can. It's just now again, right? So Florida had that hunger. Now they won. So what does that do, right? Are they the same team next year? I don't know. We'll talk about, as we get, there'll be another show between now and the start of the season. We'll start talking about where the Rangers are in the division and everything else, like the landscape of the league around them. But, I'm not going to sit here and say that they can't win with this team. They can win with this team. Are they going to? Probably not, but they can. Probably not for everybody, by the way. Need Miller to be the next Fox on defense. Okay. How do you dump the Trouba contract now? Well, you can't. Could be a deadline deal. I don't think he's back next year, though. He's here. I don't think he's back next year. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Let's see. Kurt, giving Trouba that crazy deal. Well, yeah, but Kurt, was it that crazy at the time? See, that's the thing. Like, I'm not a guy that's going to look back as revisionist history. Like, I don't have a problem with the deal at the time. Because you make that deal because, again, 25-year-old kid, 50 points, that trajectory is really good. So you'll take it. It's a problem now because he never got there. That's the gamble. Had the cap gone up like it was supposed to, you don't care as much. But the cap went flat. And that hurts a team like the Rangers who have star players that they pay. So, often Perot, those two left wings, maybe. I'm not saying that you're wrong. Feels like we're all forced to hope Trouba plays well. So at least the trade value. I see, but that's the thing, Brian. Like, I would have given him away for nothing. Everybody talks about trade value. You know what's valuable? Cap space. Like, I don't care. So like everyone's like, oh, you got to get something. No, you don't. You can just get air. What they get for Goodrow? Air. Awesome. What else did you want? Oh, they have to get a fit. No. If the Rangers could move Jacob Trouba right now for future considerations, they absolutely would. 1,000%. And I wouldn't bat an eye, neither would you, because that $8 million is oxygen. Oxygen. So let's get to the elephant in the room. The Igor Shesterkin extension. This will be a math lesson for some of you, maybe a lesson in logic for some others. I don't know. We'll see. Outside of this blind love for an awful, overpriced defenseman because he wears a letter and he hits people, the other thing that has driven me just bonkers this offseason has been people talking about what Shesterkin could make or should make. I see comments, oh, he should make $8 million a year, or he should not make a penny over $10 million a year. Let me just take a second or 5 minutes to explain why that doesn't make any sense. Try to follow me here. For most of you, it's remedial because we talk, but just follow me. For anyone to throw out an arbitrary number, 8 million, 10 million, 12 million, whatever, it has no meaning and it has no relevance. And I will tell you why. Let's break this down again like we did in June because it bears repeating because something's going to happen. We're going to talk about it when it does, and we got to set some groundwork here. Players sign their deals as a percentage of cap, and barring a global pandemic, caps go up every year. Let's take a look at history. In 2008, Henrik Lundqvist signed a 6-year, $41.25 million deal. The cap at that time was 50.3. It was 13.67% of cap. The next time around in 2013, Henrik signed a 7-year, $59.5 million deal. Cap was 64.3. That was 13.22% of cap. Current highest paid goalie in the league is Carey Price, who doesn't play anymore, but he is. He signed 8 years, $84 million in 2017. And at that time, the cap was 75, so that's 14%. The salary cap for next season, 25-26, should be $92 million. That's the first year that Igor's extension takes effect. This year's paid for it. So if Igor asks for approximately 13.5%, which is basically what Henrik got if you average those two deals, that is $12.4 million in today's dollars. If he asks for 14%, that's what Carey Price got, and that's 12.9. As a reference number, Panarin signed 7 years, 81.5 with the Rangers in 2019. Cap was 81.5 at that point. That was 14.29%. So when you want to compare apples to apples, you need to look at what the percentage of the cap was when the deal was signed. He can't get a penny more than $10 million. Based on what? What does that mean? What's $10 million represent other than an arbitrary number? It means nothing. What if the cap were $100 million? Is it still not a penny more than $10 million for you? What does it mean? You have to look at numbers relative to cap or the number doesn't mean anything. If he gets $12 million, that is less on a cap adjusted basis than Henrik got on his two deals. And on the comment, well, they didn't win with Henrik. Yeah, that's true. Are you going to blame Henrik for that? Henrik being the only reason they went to the Cup final in 2014? Well, he made so much money that the Rangers couldn't afford to sign anyone else. Oh, yeah? Okay. Let's take a fun trip down memory lane so you can tell me the Rangers had no other money to sign anybody because they were paying Henrik Lundqvist 12%, or whatever the percentage was at the time. All right, let's have some fun. 2007, Chris Drury, 5 years, $32.5 million. 2007, Scott Gomez, 5 years, $51.5 million. 2008, Wade Redden, 6 years, $39 million. 2009, Marian Gaborik, 7 years, $37.5 million. 2011, Brad Richards, 9 years, $58.5 million deal. Traded for Rick Nash 3 years into an 8-year, $62.4 million deal. 2014, Dan Girardi, 6 years, $33 million. 2015, Mark Stahl, 6 years, $34.2, and then they went into rebuild. So don't you dare tell me that they didn't have money to spend. They did. They just lit it on fire, and they spent it on garbage. Henrik Lundqvist's contract did not hurt the Rangers. It was fine. What hurt the Rangers was the money that they wasted around him. It was all garbage. Fast forward to present day. If Igor is making $12 million, is that what's going to hurt the Rangers? Or is it Jacob Trouba making $8 million? On top of that, what choice do the Rangers have? Seriously. Do you really think the Rangers can walk away from Igor Shesterkin? Do you think they can trade Igor Shesterkin? What are the Rangers without Igor Shesterkin? And I love the people who tell me they can trade Shesterkin for young players and draft picks. Could not be more disconnected from reality. Why on earth would the Rangers, at the tail end of a contention window, sell off currently valuable entities for futures? Like, are people serious sometimes? I just don't know what goes through people's minds. And don't get me wrong, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm right all the time, because I'm certainly not right all the time. And this is on forever videos. So you can go back and watch any of these shows going back to whenever this thing started. I'm there saying things that are probably end up being the most wrong thing ever 6 months down the road. Whatever, I don't care. But what logic is that? What is the logic behind thinking that a team with older players trying to win right now, that they should be trading away their most valuable assets for futures? If you really think this way, send me your Venmo. I will send you $5 for you to buy a clue. And then, well, Jonathan Quick played just fine. They could be fine with Jonathan Quick or somebody else. Okay. Jonathan Quick played really well in very sheltered starts for a portion of the year as a backup. Not a starter. Not anymore. This idea that they can just move Shesterkin out and play Quick or Dylan Garand or whatever and be just as successful is nuts. It's nuts. I think what we have here is a fan base that is so spoiled with elite goaltending, just ho-hum, we have elite goaltending, that we think that's normal. This is what it is. It's goaltending, and ours is great. Anybody can do it. You really can't believe after the playoffs that we just saw that I actually have to have these conversations. That Igor Shesterkin absolutely 100% gives the Rangers the best chance to win anything. He is their best player. You don't trade stars away when you're trying to win. You build around the stars that you have. What you do is what the Rangers didn't do when they had Henrik Lundqvist. The Rangers had plenty of money to work with. I just outlined that road of misery. All that wasted money. They just blew it. They had a major advantage over the rest of the league. And now, what you feel is the same story playing out again. That it's the goalie making all this money. But that's not the issue. The issue is the waste of the other resources. That's why you feel we've seen this movie before. That's why some of you want to move on from the goalie, because you just feel like this is deja vu. This team is only going to go as far as he can take them. They're going to sign him. It's going to happen. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when and how much. In my opinion, if it comes in under 12, 12 on the nose, 12.0, that is a win. And it's also why I wanted them to sign him for longer than they did, because here we are. And this is why this is the end of this year, in many ways, really might just be the end of this team's window. Because now he's got to get paid. It does get harder when the guy's making more money. No different than a quarterback in football. When your quarterback's making out money, it's just harder. Yes, but what are you just going to play a worse goaltender and try to save money? And for what? He's the reason. It's him. He is their best player. It's not close. Well, Fox is second. Where are they without him? People drive me nuts. All right. Let's see. Nah. I may or may not do that for a living. Let's see here. Oxygen until Igor takes a Panarin type deal. Oxygen until Igor takes... Yeah, but that's, again... I mean, where's the team without him? Cups for Henrik, cups for Panarin, cups for Igor will be 0. Also a penny over 10.5. But again, where's the 10.5 coming from? Why 10.5, Velasco? Tell me where 10.5's coming from. Is that a percentage of cap? That's just a number you like? Thank you, Joe. Yep. PJ, I absolutely hate long-term contracts. They scare me in every sport. To me, anything over 5 years is nuts. Yeah, but Rich, we watch those games. We all watch the same games. Henrik almost won it by himself. He almost won in 2014 by himself. The Rangers just blew the resources around him. It was malpractice. He wasn't the reason why. He wasn't the reason why they lost. He was the reason why they were there, which is why it can never be his fault. I mean, how many Game 7 35 save performances do you need? He literally, if he got any support at all, how could they? They were paying Brad Richards, Marian Gaborik, all these other guys. Mark Stahl, Dan Girardi to play bad defensively in front of him. People can sit there and they can say, oh, Henrik took too much. You had money. You just wasted the rest of it. I hate to break it to you guys. Adam Fox is a bargain at what he makes. You're going to say, well, he makes $9 million. Yeah, he does. And he's worth every penny and then some, but that's what his performance is. He's not the problem. It's Trouba making 8. That's the problem. What backup plan? Backup? There's no backup plan. They have no plan. They have concepts of a plan. I don't get political on this show. Dave Crispin, 0 chance Eagle wears another sweater. PJ wants $5. Next time I see him at a game, beer's on me. Let's see. There's Joe, 100. Yep. Mm-hmm. We've been spoiled by goaltending. Very true. Mm-hmm. Ask the Devils. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Dimitri. Yeah. Rangers number 1 center for most 10 years was Derek Stepan. Yeah, because they blew the money on other useless nonsense. It wasn't Henrik's deal. I will take that to my grave. It wasn't Henrik's deal. It was all this other nonsense around him because that's all they knew how to do. This is a team that paid Bobby Holik and Darius Kasparaitis. I mean, this is what they do. Mark, how are you? What's up, buddy? It's on replay. Why are Crosby and Brady able to build more complete teams? Okay. Crosby didn't do the Penguins any favors. When he signed that deal, it was like 15% of cap. It was just long. And the cap went up around him. Again, the reason, if the cap goes up normally, Jacob Trouba is still a problem, but it's not as much of a problem. Still a problem because he stinks. Still. If they can trade Trouba and sign Igor to 4 to 5, no more than 12, it's a win. See, that's the thing, John. I'd give him 8 years tomorrow. But by the time you get to the end of that deal, the cap's up another 20, 30 million. I mean, they're going to keep making money now at this point. I mean, that's the nature of sports. You see what the NFL is doing. I mean, the NHL is never going to be the NFL. I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you that. They're going to keep making money. They'll probably get 4 new teams by then because that's what the NHL wants to do. So here's the thing. They are basically they're for all intents and purposes the same team they were last year. We'll dive into line combos, defensive pairs on the next show, partially because they're not all that exciting and they're generally repetitive. But being the same team, frankly, there's good and bad to that. The good is that there's consistency. There's the reality that they were a good team last year. They won the President's Trophy. They got to the third round. Does that mean anything? No, not really. One team wins. But they were a contender. Now out go some of the dead weight. Blake Wheeler, Jack Roslovic, Alex Wenberg. It's essentially the same group after that. Really should not surprise you at all. They cast their lot with this core. Either it's going to work or it's not. And I think so much was made about this idea that they were going to shake things up. Maybe had they gotten out of that $8 million waste on the bottom pair defense, maybe they certainly could have done something more aggressive to certain parts of the roster rather than Riley Smith. Maybe get something a little more sexy, a little more oomph. That wasn't in the cards. The problem is going to be, like we said before, what if last year was their best shot? I don't think right now you can say they're better than last year, just based on age. The other side of that is that I don't think anyone 12 months ago thought that team was better than the one that lost in embarrassing fashion to the Devils. So what do we know? Nobody thought they'd win the President's Trophy last year. Not that it matters, because it doesn't. We all had pretty much a similar view that they were probably going to be second or third in the Metro. That was the result of a perception that talent was leaving the team. Tarasenko, Kane. We didn't know what the coaching would do. We do now. And to that point, the coaching staff is intact. That's a plus in and of itself. From now until the deadline, this is your team. They will be fine. They will likely be aggressive at the deadline, or at least they certainly should be. But we said that last year. We ended up with Wenberg and Roslovic. So maybe we should be mentally prepared for a nothing burger at the deadline. That would probably be the worst possible outcome. Again, to me, this needs to be put your chips in the middle and go all in. You may not have another hand. Maybe they're saving that all-in move for March. Sure hope that's the case. Because I'm telling you right now, if the Rangers are making their selection in the first round of the 2025 NHL draft, I am going to lose my mind. I have zero interest in making that draft pick. Trade it. Try to win now. There might not be a tomorrow. Not with this group. I need to see a sense of urgency to win now. Because pretty soon, this team is going to look very, very different. Realistically, for this group, I really think this is their last shot. Before some of these contracts on some of these players explode, you have Panarin into his walk year, Kreider into another year older. There's a lot of things just converging together at once. This is your time. Go out there and take it. And frankly, if they don't win this year, what's that mean for Chris Drury? We can keep going, but I think we're going to end up with more questions than answers. And it's September, so that's fine. But time's going to move fast. Before we know it, ball's going to drop in December. We'll start talking about the deadline and what we're going to do. And they need to push their chips in. The only prospect, we're going to get to rookies here in a second, but the only prospect that is untouchable is Gabe Perreault. Everybody else can go. Prospects. I'm talking about roster players right now. Prospects. Othman, Sikora, whatever. We're going to talk about that in a second, but nobody else untouchable but Gabe Perreault. Everybody else is free range. All in all, this offseason was what it was. Their hands were tied to a large extent. If there's a big move to be made, it'll be March. And if we get there and they don't push the chips in, I'm very concerned. The time that this group has is shorter and shorter and shorter. If something is going to happen, It needs to happen now. It needs to happen this season. Comments. We are worse because Bika didn't grow a pair. I mean, PJ, go back to that number. You can add 3 to 4% every year and just project it out. We're over 100 now, I would say. No, that's what I'm saying. Like, they signed Panarin into that deal because the cap keeps going up. The contracts stay flat, but the cap goes up. Didn't happen. That's where the Rangers get hurt. In Drew, we have to trust structure. President's Trophy means nothing at a tangible level. Didn't even get to see it. Yeah. Rich, it's a really good question. We don't know that yet, but who knows? But the point is, I think that's where you go and you start to get aggressive, right? All this way. I mean, the people that look, I'm in the camp of don't trade Kako too, but at some point, like, you got to make a move. You can't always think about 5 years down the road. You have to strike while the iron's hot. And if there's one issue I have with this team is like when you again, why they had their first round pick this year blows my mind. Just blows my mind. For what? I don't care. So, and then there's this. Sam Rosen's last year. Again, there needs to be a sense of urgency. Absolutely. Has to happen. Yes. And possibly a defensive upgrade. And if that's Ryan Lindgren out, it's Ryan Lindgren out, and I do not care. They need a winger. That's not even necessarily one, Cat. It could be line 2 if you slot your lines correctly. Me and Al get into it a lot, but Al, that's not going to happen. You know why it's not going to happen? He's not going to be on the ice enough. Playing third pair. Al's a good guy. We go back and forth. Will any rookies crack the opening night lineup? So I don't think it's that likely. And it depends on who you think counts as a rookie, right? So for me, Matt Rempe, Adam Edstrom, they're not rookies to me. Like, I'm looking more at Brennan Othman, Adam Sikora, Brett Berard, like those sorts of players. So on the defense, I don't see it at all. I think that their defensive pairs are set. We'll touch on that next show. I think their top 6 is set to an extent. I don't think that there's a hole for anybody that's not currently on the roster to fill it. So I don't want to burst anybody's bubble. I just don't think, at least opening night, that you're going to feature any of these kids. Now, we talk about how I'm wrong a lot. I am wrong a lot. I don't care. I'm just going to give my opinion all the time, right or wrong. I said last year nobody would make the roster, and Will Cooley was on the opening night roster. So, okay, great. I just don't see any spots right now that I think a contending team is going to trust with a rookie. Do I think that, Brett Berard, Brennan Othman could see some time with the Rangers this year? Yeah, sure. Why not? I just think it's opening night. To me, I think they're going to go with what they have. Laviolette said, this is training camp. There's always an opportunity for you to jump out of your shoes, knock us in the head, and say, I am here and I have arrived. I think that's lip service. I do. That's just to keep guys motivated, but it's a hard cap league. Like, you can't send these guys to the minors. It's not like other sports where there's a practice squad, everything else. Like, hockey's pretty straightforward with that. So they say a lot. They say a lot about guys, earning spots. But let's just play this out. Let's say it's Brennan Othman. Othman makes the team. Okay. Then you have to trade someone. I don't know if they do that. Even then, if you put Othman on the third line and drop Cooley to line 4 to fit him, that means that now there's not enough room for Jimmy Vesey and Matt Rempe. They already don't have room for Adam Edstrom if they keep Carrick. Now it's square peg, round hole. So I don't know. I don't think so. I just don't see a spot, personally. I think they like VC a lot. I think he's going to be on the 4th line. I think Rempe is going to make the team. I do. I think they like what he brings. So we'll see how preseason goes. I just wouldn't get my hopes up that you're going to see a pretty tangible difference from the roster you saw last year. So that wraps up tonight. I went over a lot. I had a lot just to get out there because you guys know, like I feel I have a lot of strong thoughts. Before let me just get to some of these. Need to win for Sam. You say trade someone if Offman comes up. That would help big time with cap. No, it depends who it is. I mean, Offman makes money too. Like some of these guys have rookie. I mean, who are you going to trade? Kako makes $2 something. No, you're not going to trade anybody that has a big contract. So no, I don't think so. Kevin, fourth line for Berard often makes no sense. Well, I mean, I could see Berard being a bottom six guy, but I would agree it would be on the third line. Again, if Offman's in, it's third line left wing, and you move Cooley down. But then again, now what do you do with VC? Like it's this butterfly effect that you can't, it just doesn't work. I think he's going to play. Like I think they have full intention of what he brings, and they're going to want to use it. But I will tell you that if you're going to let the kid play, let the kid play. Let him play. Like this idea that what's the point at that point? Why is he on the roster? What to do? Kako's a piece to trade. Maybe, PJ, maybe, but then again, you have to get something back that makes it worth your while. If you trade him for a 4 or whatever, what do we do? What are we doing? Like, what does that accomplish? Kako at his cap number, even if he never gets the scoring touch, and you know what? Maybe it just won't happen here. It is what it is. He's very sound defensively. Like he doesn't make that much money, right? Like if you get rid of him, then it's you have to replace him and his defensive game. So it's push and pull. Like I think at this point we have to separate the player from the draft pick. It is what it is. Every single team would have taken Kaapo Kakko at 2. This is not the Rangers getting it wrong. This is not Lias Anderson. This is not, I don't know, the litany of bad draft. This is not Dylan McElrath that like nobody was going to do this but the Rangers. Everybody was taking Kakko at 2. So everybody got it wrong. Okay. You live in whatever. It's fine. I'm not that is like I don't blame the Flyers for Nolan Patrick. Like that was the consensus pick. Like you got to have really brass balls to go off a consensus pick that high because if you're wrong, you will never live it down. When everybody got it wrong, then everybody got it wrong. It wasn't your bright idea. Dave, as usual, I know more about hockey than I did before this. Let's go Rangers. Thank you, brother. I appreciate the kind words. So next show will be sometime between now and the start of the season. It'll be before October 9th. Keep up with the BlueTruth page for that. The plan will be at that point to take a look at the likely line combinations and defensive pairs, kind of talk through what we saw so far in the preseason to that point, take a look around where the Rangers stand within the Metro. We'll take a look at some of the betting odds at that point about where the numbers say the Rangers are, over-unders on some of the player stats, things like that. But I really want to thank you all for the support of BlueTruth. Pages continue to grow and grow with new followers. And, I appreciate that. All of that more than I can put into words. And you guys are awesome. To my day ones, and you guys, you're on every show. I mean, like you know who you are. You especially are wonderful people. As long as you've been here, it really does mean a lot that you continue to allow me to share the love of this team with you. Some of the hate too, but that's part of being a Ranger fan, right? That's just how we are. So, again, thank you. When I see the same names, watch each one. This is episode 43 now, right? So a lot of the same names. And the fact that you take the time out of your day to just sit and talk hockey with me for an hour 5, hour 10, that's awesome. So thank you for that. Rich, so I got to make this show. Always great listening, answering your questions. Also, thank you. No, Rich, thank you. I mean, again, we'll always have back and forth. I think that sometimes people forget that we all want the same thing. We just have different ideas on how to get there. I'm not always right. Not always wrong either. But like, I appreciate hearing other perspectives, and I'll tell you why. Because it either opens my eyes to maybe a perspective I didn't think of, or it solidifies the view that I had. So I always appreciate that discourse. I always appreciate going back and forth and really just talking through things. Like we're all going to have different takes on things, and that's fine. That's great. That's what makes a market, so to speak, in financial terms. Joe, thank you. Appreciate that. All the kind words. PJ, PJ, I'm almost positive that you end every show asking me that same question. One of these days. Al, my brother, you and I have had a lot of interactions this summer. I think you were very mad at me at one point that wasn't really my intention, but yes, we all have passion for the team. We all want the same thing. Sometimes that comes out in different language than we would like to choose, but at the end of the day, it is all shared love of the same thing. So hopefully you had a good summer too. Hopefully we can continue talking on the page, on the shows, on all the other stuff we're going to do. PJ, you're my outlet for my crazy Rangers fan, and makes you realize I'm not the only nutty one. I live and die with him, man. My dad says, "Why are you like that?" I don't have a choice, and actually, it's his fault. If you want to get technical, I tell him all the time, like this is your fault. It's just it's what you put your heart into, They affect my mood more than I like to admit, but they do. And it's not so much games in October and November. Like they can lose a regular season game. I won't care. Like you can throw that away. It's just when it gets to playoff time, like it's stress and nausea. So, yeah. Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it. Love your reactions when you think people make. Yeah, I mean, like I've built a page of almost 12,000 followers by making shit up. Apparently, right, Dimitri? I seriously, like, have I ever? And I said this at the time when I posted the Johnny Goodrow stuff. Like, listen, I don't take any joy in reporting this. Is an awful story. I mean, and the story gets worse. The story gets worse. Both the wives are pregnant too. I mean, it's just like it's awful. I didn't enjoy reporting that, but that's one of those things where, like, this is a hockey player. It's local here. Like, we, not for anything, but we had it before anybody else did. I don't take any pride in that, but I was made aware of it. I verified it with a couple people that I knew, and it's really sad. It really, really is, I mean, very, very sad. Tom, watch this. You got to catch the Sunday football show. I actually lost my mind when Dak signed that contract because whatever. For those of you who don't know, I am a Dallas Cowboys fan. Now, there's a reason for that. You're going to say, why do you like the Giants? I live in Southern Jersey. And as you know, I'm a huge Ranger fan, right? So we're in Eagle country, Flyer country. Rangers are hated by the Flyers. The Flyers love the Eagles. Eagles hate the Cowboys. That's a very natural fit for me. Could have been the Raiders. Could have been the Vikings. Could have been anybody. But that's who those people hated. So that is who I decided to root for. Yes, but I also hate them at the same time. So push and pull. So stupid. Anyway, back to the Rangers. Thank you all for watching the show. Thank you for your interactions, your likes, your just like, follow, share, subscribe. Continue to grow our community of Ranger fans. We'll get together again sometime before the start of the season. I'll post a couple days before, so and then we will go from there. So let's go Rangers. We'll talk soon. Take care.